Let me begin first with Ambassador Lee, who's sitting to my immediate right. Ambassador Lee really is a remarkable diplomat who has served for 4 decades in the South Korean Foreign Ministry and Foreign Service, and has had extensive diplomatic postings around the world, including Liberia, the Philippines, Austria, Yugoslavia, and the EU, and has had a number of senior positions in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He was a Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs at the ministry, which is an enormously important role, and then has also been the Korean ambassador to Great Britain and came to the United States in 2005. He also participated in Quito, the organization that was involved in the last round of trying to solve the North Korean nuclear problem, and so really has seen this from all the different diplomatic angles. We are then to his right, Ambassador Alexander Vershbow, better known to most of us as Sandy Vershbow, a really great civil public servant in his own right, who has also served in a remarkable series of posts. I first met Sandy in the mid-1980s when he was at the U.S. Embassy in London, and our paths have, for me, very fortunately crossed extensively over the years. In recent years, Sandy was Senior Director for Europe at the NSC during the Clinton administration, where he played an instrumental role in developing the policy that ultimately led to the end of the wars in Bosnia, and he deserves considerable credit. He then extended what had already been a remarkable series of postings abroad to 2 very important postings in Europe, first as our ambassador to NATO, and then as our ambassador to Russia, which obviously were enormous challenges of great importance, in which he handled very skillfully and with a wonderful combination of diplomacy but forthrightness, which is characteristic of the leadership that he has always shown, and showing the range that American diplomats are capable of showing. He is now our ambassador in Seoul, where he's done a remarkable job in observing and helping manage a transition in U.S. South Korean relations. We've got a broad-ranging agenda for them to talk about, both in terms of the North Korean nuclear problem and in bilateral relations on both the political and the economic front. So you're here not to hear me but them, and so we're going to begin with Sandy Vershbow.
You may be focusing on our elections, which are certainly quite fascinating, but the Koreans just had a very important presidential election on December 19th, and they elected Lee Myung-bak, the former mayor of Seoul, to be the next president of South Korea. And he'll take office on February 25th for a 5-year term. The respect for the rule of law and the transparency of the elections were really a testament to Korea's commitment to democracy, and also demonstrated just how far the country has come since it held its first open presidential elections just 20 years ago. It's very rapid democratization. They had a very lively campaign. The candidates did things that I think even our candidates at least haven't yet done, but February 5th is still coming, engaging in synchronized dance routines and singing in raucous choruses. But I think that despite some of the revelry during the campaign, in the end, the people of Korea elected Mr. Lee by an overwhelming margin, the largest in Korean history, in fact, on the basis of his vision for the future of Korea. And in particular, based on his pledges to revitalize the economy, boost economic growth, and expand economic opportunity for Korea's citizens. So Koreans definitely voted for change. And President-elect Lee has emphasized his interest not only in improving the economy, but also in strengthening the Korea-U.S. alliance. He's also stressed the importance of the complete denuclearization of North Korea, and he's even offered a detailed plan to triple North Koreans' per capita income to $3,000 a head, provided that denuclearization is completed. So on these and other issues, such as our important Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement, we very much look forward to working closely with President-elect Lee's government. Now, as South Korea makes the transition to a new government, some commentators have suggested that over the last 10 years, there's been a growing distance developing between the United States and Korea, but I don't see it that way. It's true that we've sometimes had some differences on certain issues, but having served as ambassador for more than 2 years now, I think it's striking just how resilient the relationship is and how much our two governments have been able to accomplish together. Many of the goals that our two countries have been pursuing for years, peace on the Korean Peninsula, a more mature and balanced military partnership, and tariff-free trade, are now within our grasp. So with that as an introduction, let me talk in a little bit more detail about some of the key issues in the relationship. And I'll start with what has always been the foundation for the relationship, our defense alliance. Even though the Northeast Asian neighborhood has been changing rapidly, our defense alliance has been a reassuring constant factor. And I think it has also matured considerably in its 55-year history in adapting to changing circumstances. Even with these changes, though, our commitment to each other's security remains as strong now as when we signed our mutual defense treaty in 1953 at the end of the Korean War.
President Lyndon Johnson, through his lifetime of public service, was distinguished by his commitment to family, faith, and freedom. South Koreans, in particular, appreciate President Johnson's unwavering commitment to freedom and democracy. As a junior senator, he strongly backed President Truman's decision to come to South Korea's defense back in 1950. And when he became president, he welcomed Korean President Park Chung-hee to Washington in May of 1965. And the following year, President Johnson paid a return visit to Korea. With Korean troops engaged with the U.S. in Vietnam, President Johnson assured President Park Chung-hee that the war would not weaken the United States' commitment to Korea's own security. President Johnson's decision to stick by Korea came at a crucial time in our relations, as Korea was struggling to extricate itself from poverty. U.S. support was vital in enabling us to achieve what was come to be known as an economic miracle. And President Johnson's faith was justified. In the decades since that time, the Korea-U.S. alliance had steadily evolved into a dynamic and mutually beneficial partnership, to the point where it is considered as one of the most successful alliances in history. I'd like to update you on our overall bilateral relationship, including our alliance's biggest challenge, which is North Korea, and our biggest opportunity, the pending Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement. And I like to be brief and broad as much as possible in order not to overlap what Ambassador Vershbow has stated in our bilateral ties. In the half-century since we turned back the invasion by communist North Korea and China, the Korea-U.S. alliance has successfully deterred further conflict on the peninsula, while also playing a pivotal role in maintaining peace and security in the Northeast Asian region. Thanks to this unique alliance partnership, Korea has been able to rise from the ashes of war to become the 11th largest economy in the world. At the same time, Korea has become a fully mature democracy, as is evident by our presidential election last month. The Korean people today are well aware and immensely grateful for the fact that these twin achievements were possible thanks in no small part to the United States. In particular, owing to the sacrifice of so many young men and women in the U.S. military, as well as the generous assistance Korea has received through the alliance. This evening we have some of our most distinguished friends of Korea who gave part of their life to Korea when the country was in trouble. our distinguished Korean War veterans, thank you for joining us, and also Mr. Deckard, who came from Louisiana to join us this evening. Again, my compliments to you all.